The Warrior Who Could Not Die. Long ago, in the mighty village of Arogbo, nestled in the belly of the rainforest, where spirits whispered through trees and ancestors walked among men, there lived a warrior named Odufa. He was not just any warrior. His name struck terror into the hearts of enemies and awe into the hearts of his people, his power a wonder to behold. Odufa, a unique figure, was born on the night of an eclipse, when night turned day. The seventh son of the seventh wife of the village's high priest. The oracle had prophesied, "He shall command death, and yet not taste it." On the day he was born, his mother suffered extraordinary pain. She bled profusely, trembling as visions flooded her mind, strange symbols, flashes of shadowed figures, a blood moon rising. She whispered sacred words she didn't know she knew, and, in her final breath, she offered her soul to the gods, exchanging her life for the survival of her newborn. Her body became cold, but the boy let out a cry that echoed like thunder through the night. That cry marked the beginning of his incredible journey. As Odufa grew, so too did his hunger for battle. He was not like other children. At age 5, while others played with toy drums, Odufa was found striking a log with a real spear, mimicking the stances of the village warriors. He wrestled older boys, sparred with guards, and disarmed grown men with uncanny instinct. The village elders watched in awe. His training began in earnest before he could even tie his waistcloth. By 7, he had memorized the battle chants of his ancestors. By the time he was 10 years old, he had bested every warrior in mock duels. Under the guidance of warlords and diviners, he learned how to fight and hear the drumbeat of war in the silence of the wind. By the time he reached manhood, his muscles were carved like stone, and his soul was fire wrapped in flesh. Odufa had become the spear and the shield, the fury and the calm, a true child of war. As a young man, Odufa sought the forbidden knowledge of Gbekude, an ancient charm known only to the oldest babalawos and feared even by the gods. The curse of Gbekude was that it granted immortality, but at a significant cost. With 7 goat heads, 13 cowrie shells soaked in a witch's tears, and his blood drawn during a lunar eclipse, he forged a powerful shrine deep within the forest, where even the birds refused to sing. There he called upon Orunmila, the god of wisdom, and pledged an oath before the image of Arunya, the god of passage, the one who watches between life and death. In that moment, his soul was bound to the shrine. The charm was complete. From that day on, death could not claim Odufa, at least not in the usual way. Whenever he fell in battle, as long as no one witnessed or spoke of his death, his spirit would leap from his broken body and race to his secret shrine. There he would take the image of Arunya in both hands, press it to his forehead 3 times, and his spirit would return to his body restored, renewed, undefeated. For 20 years, Odufa fought and returned. He became a shadow that death could not catch, a ripple through history, a storm that could not be buried. His blood watered battlegrounds from the red plains of Ishaga to the cursed hills of Ewekun. He died 12 times, each death more grotesque and improbable than the last. Once, a spear split him from shoulder to gut. Another time he was crushed beneath a collapsing cliffside while defending his people. On the 13th moon of an eclipse year, an enemy cult captured him, bound him in chains soaked in goat blood, and cast him into a sacrificial pyre. Flames danced, bones cracked. Yet by dawn he returned. Each resurrection followed the same pattern. His spirit would flee, a streak of light racing through the sacred forest, and enter his power shrine, a place no mortal dared defile. There, beneath the watchful eyes of the carved deity of Bebekud, he would touch his spiritual image 3 times to his forehead. And so, as long as no mouth declared him dead, and no eye witnessed the final fall, he would return. By morning, the villagers would find him sitting at the foot of the great Iroko tree, its roots said to reach the underworld. His skin unbroken, his breath calm, his eyes distant, as though he had only borrowed sleep from the gods. Not even death left a scar. Whispers turned into awe. Once proud and fearless, his enemies began to shudder at his name. They no longer called him man, but Ajogun Aye, demon of smoke and iron. Even the bravest warriors stepped back when his shadow passed. His people, trembling between fear and reverence, crowned him. Oba Ogun, Doan Joba Laimo Iku, the war king who rules without dying. Children sang of him in lullabies. Sleep, child, sleep. Odufa watches at the gate. Young warriors carved his name into their spears for courage. The sound of his war horns silenced the drums in neighboring kingdoms. Stories of his invincibility crossed rivers, soared over mountains, and settled in the dreams of rulers far beyond Arogbo. He had become a myth while still walking among men. And he believed it. He stood taller. His eyes no longer sought counsel, only command. The gods whispered more quietly in his ears, or perhaps he stopped listening. For though Odufa could not die, he had already begun to forget what it meant to live. However, as the saying goes, such power never comes without a price. Though Odufa had cheated death, he had also defied balance. With each resurrection, the gods grew more silent. Crops began to fail in lands where he spilled too much blood. Rain refused to fall after his 12th death. Some elders whispered that the ancestors no longer visited their dreams. The line between man and deity had been crossed, and fate, though patient, always collected its debt. Odufa had 9 wives. His youngest, Iretiola, was not born when he first began fighting. She was a maiden of radiant beauty, with eyes like fresh water and a heart as pure as it was fierce. She was the daughter of a midwife and the granddaughter of a seer. When she danced, the wind followed. When she sang, birds paused to listen. She was chosen for Odufa, not just for her beauty, but because the high priest saw in her a balance to Odufa's fire, a soul unburnt by ambition. Their marriage was strange and quiet. Odufa, though powerful, was distant. A man half-living, often gone in battle or hidden in trance. He rarely spoke, and when he did, his words were thick with the weight of vision. But Iretiola loved him deeply. She cared for him, anointed his wounds, and watched over him as he slept. Yet in her heart, Fear always lived. She had seen his wounds, wounds no man should survive, yet he walked. She had heard him speak in his sleep, to gods no one else could see, uttering names not meant for mortal tongues. One evening, the war drums of the Irun people echoed across the plains. Arogbo was under threat once again. The village elders, once brave, now trembled. But Odufa laughed. "Let them come," he said. "Let death try again." Before dawn, he marched to the battlefield with his war chiefs. But this time, Iretiola, overcome by fear and love, followed at a distance. She disguised herself in the robes of a messenger boy and crept into the shadows of the great plain. She hid in the tall grasses, heart pounding like a caged drum, watching the man she loved fight demons in human flesh. The battle roared. Odufa fought like a whirlwind, his blade moving faster than thought. But the Irun had learned his ways. They brought a blind priestess who cursed the air with chants of unbinding. They poured twins' blood into the ground, calling forth spirits of silence. Still, Odufa struck down warriors like thunderclaps. But just as he raised his blade to slay the Irun leader, a poisoned spear, tipped with juju oil and bound with silence charms, pierced his side. He staggered. Another spear struck, then a third. Odufa fell. His body, majestic and bloodied, hit the ground with a thunderous silence. From her hiding place, Iretiola screamed, a scream that tore the sky apart. "He is dead! Odufa is dead!" She ran to him, weeping. She knelt beside him, cradled his body in her arms, her tears mixing with the blood on his chest. She wailed his name into the heavens. "Odufa, wake! You cannot die, you said so!" But it was done. Unseen by all, Odufa's spirit had leapt from his body and raced into the forest, into the shrine of Gebekude. His ghostly feet left no prints. He burst through the doorway, grabbed the idol of Irunja, and pressed it to his forehead once, twice, and then he stopped. He heard it. His name, spoke in grief, proclaimed in the land of the living. The sacred condition of Gebekude had been broken. As long as no one speaks of your death, you shall return. Now the whole village knew. Now the gods knew. He tried thrice, pressing the idol again, but the connection was broken. His body no longer called for him. It was cold now, sealed by the voice of the living. Odufa screamed, not with pain, but with the soundless terror of a soul cast adrift. He could not go back to his body. He could not enter the realm of the dead. He had become Akudaya, the undead wanderer. The villagers buried Odufa in the royal tombs. Iretiola wept for 7 days and 7 nights. She neither ate nor slept. The drums of mourning echoed across the hills. But something was wrong. On the 8th night, the priest's goat vanished. Chickens died in their cages without wounds. Children cried of nightmares featuring burning eyes in the trees. Then some saw him. He was seen walking in the hills at dusk, his shadow stretched unnaturally long. His skin was not pale, but dim, a shimmer of smoke, a memory of flesh. His eyes glowed faintly, and his lips never moved. Some said he stood over his grave at midnight, unmoving. Others said he fought invisible enemies with invisible swords. His presence chilled the air and silenced birds. The villagers stopped saying his name. They burned offerings at his shrine. But it was too late. The power of Gebekude was eternal. It had bound Odufa's soul to the earth, but now, without an anchor, he could not die. He could not live. He wandered, cursed by love and broken silence. Iretiola returned often to his grave. She demanded answers from the high priest, who revealed the truth. Her cry, her proclamation sealed his fate. Her doubt had undone the spell. She collapsed, wailing. She wept until her voice cracked. She visited his grave every year, placing palm fronds and offerings of honey and ash, whispering apologies into the soil. Said that many years later, Iretiola returned to the forest. Her hair was gray like ash, her back bent, but her spirit was intact. She found the shrine cracked, the vines swallowing its doorway. Inside, the image of Arunja was cold and dark, the room filled with silence. She fell to her knees and whispered, "Forgive me." And far away, in the shadows of the hills, Odufa watched. But he did not speak, he did not weep. He turned and kept walking. And so, children of the land, remember the tale of Odufa, the warrior who could not die, and yet could not live. Beware the gifts that cheat the gods. Beware the powers that make you more than a man. Even victory may turn to eternal punishment when bought with such secrets. If ever you hear footsteps on a quiet night and see no one, if ever your fire goes cold, though there is no wind, whisper a prayer, for Akudaya still walks. If this story gives you some chills, kindly subscribe, like, press the notification button, and share.